Good evening and welcome to Primetime News on TV1. I'm Ravi Gamage.
And I'm Thiruni Karunaratne. Let's start off with a look at your headlines for tonight.
Sri Lanka wins an Asian Games gold after 21 years. Railway guards go on strike, leading to cancellation of trains. Passengers uneasy at Fort and Maradana. Gas prices increased from midnight. Minister Kantana calls for an electricity tariff hike. SLPP proud of the President's comments on the UNHRC report, says Sagara. Many villages flooded for over a week as Saltwater Barrier prevented floodwaters from receding. Change in vehicle import restrictions.
In tonight's top story, Sri Lanka's Tharushi Karunaratne won Sri Lanka's first ever gold medal at the Asian Games after a 21-year-long hiatus.
Now, the 18-year-old brought home the first gold medal for Team Sri Lanka in athletics in the women's 800 meters event at Hangzhou Asian Games.
Sri Lanka's Tharushi Karunaratne and Gayantika Aberatne qualified for the finals of the women's 800-meter event at Hangzhou Asian Games. The main contenders for the top spot were 25-year-old Harmilan Bains from India and 28-year-old Chang Wang from China. Tharushi Karunaratne clocked a time of 2 minutes 3.20 seconds to win gold. She entered the record books as the first Sri Lankan to win a gold for Sri Lanka in athletics after Damayanti Darsha, who achieved the feat in 2002. This is also Sri Lanka's first ever medal at the Asian Games in the women's 800-meter track event. India's Harmilan Bains bagged a silver in the women's 800-meter final, and China's Chang Wang won bronze. Gayantika Aberatne was placed 8th in the event. Sri Lanka also won the bronze medal in the 4x400 meters women's relay. The Sri Lanka team clocked a time of 3 minutes 3.88 seconds. Sri Lanka was represented by Nadisha Ramanayaka, Jayeshi Uttara, Sayuri Mendis and Tharushi Karunaratne. Bahrain won the gold and India settled for silver. Sri Lanka won the bronze medal at the men's 4x400 meters relay, setting a new national record in the process. The team of Aruna Darshana, Kaushika Keshan, Rajita Rajakaruna and Kalinga Kumarage clocked a time of 3 minutes 2.55 seconds.
This year's ICC Cricket World Cup is set to begin in India tomorrow at the Narendra Modi Stadium in India's western Ahmedabad city.
The NBC MTV network is the official broadcast rights holder of the ICC Cricket World Cup.
The 2023 ICC Men's Cricket World Cup will be the 13th edition of the Cricket World Cup, a quadrennial one-day international cricket tournament. India has co-hosted the ICC Cricket World Cup 3 times earlier. In 2023, 10 stadiums, including those in Ahmedabad, Hyderabad, Dharamshala, Delhi and Chennai, will be used for the ICC Cricket World Cup matches. The captains of the 10 teams taking part in the World Cup held a press conference.
Excited times for us. We are, struggling a lot in recent past with the injuries, but at the same time, we got some good record with us. As a group, we are looking forward for the World Cup, and everyone want to make a statement that we are there to, perform well in this tournament. Of course, they are a team who peaks at the right time, I think so. Yeah, but the preparation has been done. I think Mahesh Tikshana has joined the camp as well. So, yeah, we got good plans ahead.
The opening match of the ICC Cricket World Cup 2023 is set to be played between England, led by Jos Buttler, and New Zealand, led by Kane Williamson. The match will be played at the Narendra Modi Stadium in India's western Ahmedabad city, commencing at 2 p.m. Sri Lanka time tomorrow, the 5th of October. Sri Lanka will take on South Africa on Saturday in Delhi. Cricket fans can catch all the action of the ICC Cricket World Cup via the NBC MTV networks, the official local broadcast rights holder of the Cricket World Cup.
Sri Lanka Police and the Police Special Task Force were deployed for security at the Fort and Maradana railway stations in Colombo after a group of railway workers went on strike.
Many trains that were scheduled to operate in the evening were cancelled, severely inconveniencing the commuters.
The Operations Superintendent of Sri Lanka Railways said that a security officer attached to the Maligawatha railway yard had assaulted a railway guard, prompting the workers to go on a strike. Chairman of the Sri Lanka Station Masters Union, Sumedha Somaratna, said the reason for the strike was an assault on the railway sub-guard by a railway security officer. Many trains did not leave their stations as a result of the strike. Thereafter, railway authorities decided to cancel many train operations in the evening.
මේ රජය වලින් වැඩකුත් නැහැ කිසිම දෙයකින් වැඩක් නැහැ හැමදාම මිනිස්සු අමාරු වැටෙන එකනේ වෙන්නේ රටේ පාලකයෝ මේව බලලා මේවට විසඳුම් දෙන්න ඕනේ මේ රිටර්න් ටිකට් අරන් ඇවිල්ලා තියෙන්නේ දැන් මෙතනින් ඉල්ලුවම සල්ලි ඉල්ලුවම කියනවා මේක ගත්තු දැනට යන්නලු අපිට මේ නැවත ඒ සල්ලි ගන්න ජීවත් වෙන්න බැරි අරගලයක්ද මේව කොහොමද කරන්නේ මේව තේරෙන්නේ නැද්ද මුන්ට
Sri Lanka Police and the Police Special Task Force were deployed for security at the Fort and Maradana railway stations in Colombo.
Railway guards have cancelled several journeys, demanding the two technical assistants and security officers' duties be suspended. This led to the general public facing many difficulties. Now we have gotten to know that they are planning to apply sick leave. These are treacherous acts.
Litro gas and LOLC gas increased the prices of their LP gas products with effect from midnight.
The price of a 12.5 kilogram domestic litro gas cylinder was increased by 343 rupees to 3,470 rupees. LOLC gas increased the price of the same product by 150 rupees to 3,985 rupees. The price of a 5 kilogram domestic litro gas cylinder was increased by 137 rupees to 1,393 rupees. LOLC gas increased the price of the same product by 60 rupees to 1,595 rupees. The price of a 2.3 kilogram domestic litro gas cylinder was increased by 63 rupees to 650 rupees.
It is pertinent to mention that in January 2023, when the LPG world gas price was over $611 US and the market price of a 12.5 kg was 4,409 rupees. However, today at the same LPG price level, which is about USD 611, today's world gas price, we are issuing the 12.5 kg cylinder at 3,470 rupees, which is approximately about 900 less. This is mainly to the stock management and structural cost reduction initiatives implemented by the management. We are expecting the global market prices to increase in the next few months too, which is November, December and January. However, we will ensure that the burden to the consumers will be minimized like we have done during the recent past months.
Sri Lanka's Minister of Power and Energy told Parliament that the request for an electricity tariff hike was directed to the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka.
When this system was formulated, it was predicted that 4,500 units of electricity using hydropower could be generated in 2023. However, even the PUCSL has accepted, and through predictions of the CEB and Department of Meteorology, it has been shown that due to the prevailing dry spell, it would be possible to generate only a maximum of 3,750 gigawatt hours. Accordingly, we have to generate 750 gigawatt hours more using thermal power. If the cost of production of 1 unit of electricity using hydropower is 6 rupees, the cost of production of 1 unit of electricity using thermal power would be around 50 rupees. We need to generate 750 of that. Similarly, when we revised tariffs in February, the Public Utilities Commission gave the same revision that the CEB asked for. In July, the CEB requested a 3% reduction of tariffs. However, the PUCSL decided on a 14% reduction based on the data they had. However, due to the situation created through this tariff reduction, the dry spell across the island and the issue with the release of water from the Samanala River, we now have to cover arrears of about 30 billion rupees. This is why the CEB has made a request from the PUCSL to revise electricity tariffs. However, ultimately it is the PUCSL that will have to decide on it.
People from a number of villages have been inconvenienced as a decision is yet to be taken over the salinity barrier that was set up across the Nilvala River for the water to flow. News First delved into this matter.
This project, which was proposed in 2003, commenced in 2012 and was completed in 2022. The main aim of this project was to prevent the mix of brackish water with fresh water. However, following the establishment of the salinity barrier, the areas of Akurassa, Kamburupitiya, Athuraliya, Malimbada, Mathara and Thiyagoda experienced floods during the rainy season. Residents point out that the water accumulated in these areas due to heavy rains has not receded for over 10 days. Around 15,000 families belonging to 65 Gram Niladhari divisions are affected due to this situation. Residents say prior to the establishment of this salinity barrier, a flood situation arose in 2003 and 2017. However, it lasted only for 2 days. Residents whose homes were inundated currently live in safe places with the assistance of their neighbours.
We are taking steps to provide those affected with prepared food items. In addition, transportation activities have resumed using boats and tractors. This flood situation began last Thursday. The water levels are receding but slowly. Since the upper catchment areas are still experiencing heavy rains, these water levels would probably not go down soon. Army personnel were deployed to assist residents of Thalgahagoda.
Residents of all lowlands in these divisional secretariats have been rendered helpless. There is no food in houses. Those who are responsible for this situation are remaining quiet. God is our only hope now.
The same issue was raised in Parliament as well.
The proposal to add collapsible gates in the project had been terminated by a decision reached by the secretaries of 2 ministries while the project was underway. Around 7 harvesting seasons were affected and no compensation was provided. After the salinity barrier was set up, another 2 seasons were affected, resulting in a total of 10 seasons being affected. The expected results of this salinity barrier have not been achieved.
He may have visited the area last week. We should make technical decisions and not political ones. You can make political decisions.
Was compensation provided for the 9 harvesting seasons that were affected? There is no point in just speaking. Compensation was not provided. The Department of Irrigation is idling. Therefore, I pose the question to the Minister of Environment for reasonable intervention.
Areas that were never flooded before are inundated this time. This flood situation arose after almost 2 decades. However, this should not be a political decision. The salinity barrier is now linked to an agri issue and a drinking water issue. A technical decision needs to be made.
So then say that there is a flood and agri issue and drinking water is not needed, therefore remove this barrier. We cannot do that. This is a very sensitive matter that also links to the flow of drinking water to the Hambantota district as well. There is no issue in preventing water with high salinity mixing with river water. The issue is that a virtuous project was done in an improper manner. Many lies were mentioned. The issue arose due to improper planning regarding the gate systems.
Platforms recording data from the automatic identification system of vessels reported that the Chinese geophysical scientific research vessel Xi'an-6 is expected to reach Sri Lanka on the 9th of October.
The Chinese vessel's visit also drew concerns from neighbouring India. However, diplomatic level clearance had not been granted by Sri Lankan authorities to enter any port on the island.
The University of Ruhuna announced that it has decided to step away from the research program that was to take place with the Chinese geophysical scientific research vessel Xi'an-6, citing the situation that has arisen over its presence. The Xi'an-6 was some 373 nautical miles away from Sri Lanka this evening. In recent days, the Xi'an-6 was moving over the 90 East Ridge, a mid-ocean ridge on the Indian Ocean floor, engaged in research operations. However, later the vessel moved away from it and closer to Sri Lanka to engage in some form of maritime activity.
Nikkei Asia reported that Sri Lanka's diplomatic failure to secure a concrete debt relief framework from China, its largest bilateral lender, is blocking access to desperately needed cash under a $3 billion bailout from the International Monetary Fund. Nikkei Asia said that a visit by IMF officials last month highlighted once again the bankrupt South Asian nation's slow progress in restructuring its external debt. The report added that the fund, which has insisted on financing assurances from bilateral lenders as a key pillar, gave Sri Lanka a failing grade in the first review of the bailout, denying it a second tranche of $330 million in aid. Now the stakes are rising for an expected mid-October visit to China by President Ranil Wickremesinghe to attend the 10th anniversary summit of the Belt and Road Initiative, Beijing's region-wide infrastructure building program. Wickremesinghe, government sources say, is due to meet Chinese President Xi Jinping to discuss debt relief. An Asian diplomat revealed that China was the latest bilateral creditor to join lenders like Japan and India earlier this year to offer initial financial assurances that met the IMF's conditions to approve the March bailout. According to Nikkei Asia, Beijing offered a 2-year moratorium for the Sri Lankan debt and talked of providing new loans to pay for existing debt. Reuters reported that Sri Lanka's major creditors such as Japan, India and France are likely to reach a broad agreement this month on debt reduction steps, including extending repayments.
State Minister Shehan Semasinghe, responding to the questions posed a day earlier by opposition leader Sajid Premadasa in Parliament, said that the agreement for the second tranche of the IMF-supported program will be reached soon. He also elaborated on a decision taken with regard to vehicle import restrictions.
The government and the IMF are engaged in progressive discussions in order to reach a staff-level agreement. After we reach an agreement, we can announce the date in which we will receive the second tranche. 85% of the annual estimate can be achieved by the end of the year, and therefore the tax administration needs to be strengthened via the tax policy. The government hopes to raise its tax revenue accordingly. At the same time, we intend to relax the restrictions imposed on vehicles next week and have not yet decided to relax the import restrictions on 304 HS codes related to private vehicles. The government will be easing import restrictions on 67 commercial vehicles and goods belonging to 299 HS codes next week. We worked as a government to change the action taken initially. You are the reason for the country's bankruptcy. Did you raise your hand for that? That is when the country was ruined. We have approached the IMF 16 times and this issue has aggravated because the truth was concealed from the IMF, the international community, the public and the parliament. We are not forced to consume the bitter medicine. There are 16 recommendations in the program for Sri Lanka. It recommends appointing an independent anti-corruption advisory committee to appoint a Director General and commissioners to the commission to investigate allegations of bribery or corruption. Yet, no appointments have been made and the deadline is 23rd of November. There are 225 MPs here and only 12 have declared their assets. The President's asset declaration should have been announced by the 24th of July. How did the Health Ministry engage in emergency procurement and nothing was done for 3 days? The entire program must be implemented. The revenue loss in tax concessions and the import tax relief for luxury vehicles must be publicized on a website. Can anyone say that the IMF agreement with Sri Lanka is wrong? Can these be concealed? The second tranche may come in a few months. However, all these recommendations must be completed before the third tranche. If public funds are being looted and if the penal code is not used to prosecute, what is the purpose of this parliament? The IMF is not doing anything bad and it is monitoring the process. There will be no room to weasel out of this.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe attended the parliament session and invited all factions to join forces.
Both sides say that I am correct, so why can't both sides work together? The country is in a tough spot. We need to work together to recover the country. As the opposition and as the ruling faction, we face the same threat. If there are other programs to recover, please produce them. None have been produced. Let us show the country that this policy is accepted by both sides and work together.
අපි දෙපැත්තම එකට එකතු වෙලා වැඩ කරමු. ඒ වල සමහර ඒවා ඉක්මන් කරන්න පුළුවන් නම් එකක් ඇවිල්ලා
Something needs to be done soon. One is the independent management of the EPF. There is a conflict of interest. This affects all the working masses.
මොකද ඒකේ රටේ හැමෝටම වැඩ කරන හැමෝටම බලපානවා. බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ අර්ථසාධක අරමුදත් බාරකාර අරමුදත් දෙකම.
We want the EPF and the ETF placed together under an independent board. If you wish, you can join along with the others in the SJB for discussions. The lion's share of this task is with Minister Siamala Pitya and the department.
තුමාගේ ගැන කිසිම ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ.
Commenting on President Ranil Wickremesinghe's interview with German channel DW, the SLPP says it is pleased with that the President agrees with its stance.
During the said interview, the President dismissed launching an international investigation into the Easter Sunday attacks and claimed he rejects the UNHRC report on Sri Lanka.
If someone requests for an international investigation, we will not oppose it, but we do not ask for one.
අපි එවැනි ජාත්‍යන්තර පරීක්ෂණයක ඉල්ලා සිටින්නේ මහින්ද ජනාධිපතිතුමා
Ever since Mahinda Rajapaksa won the war, the UNHRC has been issuing inaccurate reports. We made that claim continuously. Those in the opposition did not accept it back then. But we are proud that President Ranil Wickremesinghe has now accepted our stance.
රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ ජනාධිපතිතුමත් ඒ මතයට පැමිණීම සම්බන්ධයෙන් ඇත්තටම අපි ආඩම්බර වෙනවා.
ඒක සාධාරණයක් කවද කොයි මොහොතේ කොයි කාලෙකට වෙයිද කියලා අදහසක් දෙන්න හැකියාවක් නැද්ද?
ලෝක ත්‍රස්තවාදය තුල අගතියටපත් පාර්ශවයන් ඉන්නවා හරියට.
There are many parties who have become victims of terrorism in this world. We can never serve justice to a bus full of monks who were hacked to death in Arantalava. We can never serve justice to the father whose child died when the bomb went off in Kabitigollava. That is how remorseless terrorism is. We cannot make things right over the assassination of devotees at the Sri Mahabodhya. That is how cruel terrorism can be.
සාධාරණයක් කරන්න බෑ. ඒක තමයි ත්‍රස්තවාදයේ තියෙන කුරිරුභාවය.
Parliamentarian S.M. Marika responded to the President's statement in Parliament today.
If the President preached about democracy in his speeches and comes back to Sri Lanka to carry out a dictatorship, how can we assist him? We saw him conduct gallery talks in his interview with DW Media. I'm thankful that he tamed all those who stated that democracy is useless and that the IMF is harmful to the country. What did you say when Lasantha Wickrematunge was assassinated? When watching this interview, it seemed like it was an interview of Mahinda Rajapaksa. The only difference is that Mahinda Rajapaksa kissed the ground when he came back to Sri Lanka. Ranil Wickremesinghe didn't do that. However, seeing the way things are going, he might even wear a shawl over his coat. The theme of the SLPP last time was to rise with the father, but it might change to rise with the grandpa at the next campaign.
කෝට් එක උඩින් සාටකයකුත් දාගනී වගේ තමයි මට නම් පේන්නේ. දැන් ගිය පාර මේ පොට්ටුවේ කට්ටියගේ තේමාව උනේ අපච්චිත් එක නැගිටිමු කියලා. දැන් කියන්න තියෙන්නේ ණය අරගෙන විකුණලා ඊළඟ පාර තේමාව වෙන්නේ 100ත් එක නැගිටිමු කියලා ඉවරලා.
Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa arrived at the Sri Sambuddha-loka Vihara and shared his thoughts.
හොඳයි කතාවකි. බොමාරි දී මම හිතන්නේ ඒකට මම ජනතාවත් බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ.
ඔබතුමාත් හැබැයි ඉස්සර සැරට කතා කරපු කෙනෙක් ජාත්‍යන්තර මාධ්‍යයට. හැබැයි රනිල් මහත්තයා ඒ ගානටම ගිහිල්ලා තියෙනවා.
කොහොමද ඉතින්? එහෙම එපා කරන්න.
සර් මේ මාධ්‍ය වාරණ කරන්න හදනවා කියලා කියන සමාජ මාධ්‍ය ඒකට ඔබයි.
නෑ එහෙම අතුස්සන්නේ නෑනේ කවුරුවත්.
The Samagizana Balavege responded to the comments made by the president.
On the 19th of July 2022, as the acting president Ranil Wickremesinghe has said the following. The Daily News reports Sri Lanka to seek UK assistance to probe the Easter attacks. The investigations are incomplete and that the inquiry will be given to Scotland Yard and their technical assistance will be obtained. He said that as the acting president on the 19th of July 2022. This is as reported in a state-run newspaper, The Daily News. Take a look at the Daily News today. President says no to international inquiry on Easter attack. His position has changed within a year. He was the Prime Minister in government from 2015 to 2019. Mangala Samaravira from that government as the Foreign Minister went to the UNHRC and moved the 30/1 proposal on the 14th of October 2015. This resolution was moved on behalf of Ranil Wickremesinghe by the then Foreign Minister Mangala Samaravira. In the resolution, he proposes to introduce hybrid courts with Commonwealth judges. They propose to investigate the allegations against Sri Lanka. We would like to ask if Ranil Wickremesinghe is sane. The President is protecting someone.
ඒගොල්ලෝ යෝජනා කරා. ඒතකොට අපි අහනවා රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ ජනාධිපතිවරයාගේ මේ මොනවාද? මේ මඤ්ඤන්ද කියලා අහනවා. එයාට මඤ්ඤන් ගැත්තටම ජනාධිපතිතුමා කාව හරි ආරක්ෂා කරනවා.
News first with the people.
The SOE Reform Policy has highlighted the needs for SOE restructuring.
Suresh Shah, the head of the State-Owned Enterprises Restructuring Unit, said that around 80 state-owned enterprises need restructuring. Speaking at the event to raise awareness on the State-Owned Enterprises Reform Policy, Suresh Shah said that around 15 SOEs will be retained by the government under the restructuring program. These are institutions that related to national security and the economy. According to Suresh Shah, around 80 state-owned enterprises need restructuring and these institutions will be registered under the Companies Act soon. It was revealed that institutions related to banking, insurance and tourism must undergo a reform process. Sri Lanka's Cabinet of Ministers granted approval to restructure 7 SOEs and the remaining institutions will undergo the process following Cabinet approval. Cabinet approval was given for 7. We have discussed this with trade unions. However, our basic idea remains the same and unchanged.
Still in local news, Sri Lanka's central bank governor says the worst is behind Sri Lanka and commented on brain drain.
The 44th National Conference of Chartered Accountants ceremonial inauguration under the theme Beyond the Perfect Storm, Seizing the Opportunity, took place yesterday.
So there's a growing concern about brain drain. That's one thing that we are talking about in the recent. This sudden exodus will have implications on our near-term growth potential, as we are all aware that human capital is one of the key elements of any standard production function, especially a skilled human capital. However, seeing this August gathering, I'm convinced that there are still a significant number of professionals who recognize the potential that our country possesses and that as Sri Lankans, we have a duty and responsibility to ensure that we set this economy back on track for the sake of those who continue to stay behind and for the generation that are yet to come. On that note, I wish to emphasize that the worst is behind us, as already mentioned by the previous speaker, and it can only be so if policymakers and Sri Lankan professionals stay at home and those who are now across the world work together to build an economy that is underpinned by sound macroeconomic fundamentals, highest standards of professionalism and ethics, and agility to adapt to contemporary domestic and global changes.
Retired Rear Admiral Sarath Virasekhara expressed his views on the accusations made in relation to the resignation of Bulletin Magistrate T. Saramanaraja.
If I had threatened the magistrate, I should have been arrested at that very moment. If a person is threatening a magistrate who has the support of all the Tamil MPs in the north, then that person is insane. Permission was granted for a Pongal ceremony at a temple complex that is over 2000 years old. The magistrate spoke to former provincial councillor Raviharan and then I asked permission to speak. However, he did not give me permission. I remained silent because as a military officer, I am aware of the law.
නිශ්ශබ්ද වුණා මොකද මම හමුදා නිලධාරියෙක් ඒ වගේම මම නීතිය දන්න නිසා මම නිශ්ශබ්ද වුණා.
Management and Organisation Studies Day of the University of Colombo's Faculty of Management and Finance was held in the university premises earlier today.
Emporio, the Management and Organisation Studies Day 2023 by the Department of Management and Organisation Studies of the University of Colombo's Faculty of Management and Finance was held with the participation of several department heads, corporate leaders and students. Vice-Chancellor of the University of Colombo, Senior Professor H.D. Karunaratne was the chief guest of the event and the Dean of the Faculty of Management and Finance, Professor M.P.P. Charmadasa, was the guest of honour.
The university ranking is depend on various aspects, but we need to go for more research and collaboration, particularly with the more and more industry. So in this line, you can be close with more industry by doing this kind of function. So I believe that this event will add some colour to you.
The theme of the 2023 Management and Organisation Studies Day was Women's Leadership in Navigating Turbulent Times. CEO of the Maharaj Institute of Management Private Limited, Chetana Lenage, was one of the keynote speakers of the event.
I'm of the view that when it comes to leadership, your gender becomes immaterial. Your gender becomes immaterial. That's how I think, because what matters is the output and the impact that you make. That's what I think. Just think about Sri Lankan elections, like now when it comes to the local government elections, the election commission gives a kind of a quota or a percentage for all political parties to nominate females for elections. This happened during the last local government elections. That is to improve and encourage female representation in politics, failing which the election commission can reject the nomination list of that particular party.
Group CEO of Hemas Holdings PLC, Kasturi Chellaraja, was the second keynote speaker of the event.
Whether it's collectively as a group like we faced during the financial crisis and COVID, or it's individual what you face through circumstances at home, you all go through it. The lessons you learn during turbulent times, the character you build during that time is something very invaluable for me.
Day 29 of the second leg of the LOLC Divi program got underway centering schools in the Hinguragoda education zone of the Polonnaruwa district. In the first leg of the LOLC Divi program, school books and stationery items were provided to over 1,000 schools with less than 50 students. The second leg of the LOLC Divi program will provide school books and stationery items to schools with less than 100 students. Students will be provided with school books and stationery items for a period of 1 year under this program. This worthy initiative is a collaboration between the LOLC group and the Ministry of Education. Students from schools including the Yatiyal Patana Primary School, Kumaragama Anura Primary School, Siriketa Primary School, Patunagama Primary School, Kandavura Primary School and Vijayabahupura Primary School, Patunagama Primary School and the Thimbirigaswapa Primary School were gifted school books and stationery items this morning. School books and stationery items were also gifted to students at the Hinguragoda Zonal Education Office. The LOLC Divi program will continue to create a bright future for the country's student population.
Taking a quick look at sports news, the draw of the St. Peter's College Centenary International Under-20 Rugby Sevens tournament was held earlier today.
The International Under-20 Rugby Sevens tournament will be held to commemorate the centenary anniversary of St. Peter's College, Colombo. The tournament draw for this competition was held with the participation of the High Commissioner in Sri Lanka for Malaysia, Badil Hisham. The tournament will kick off at 9 a.m. on the 14th of October and will conclude on the 15th of October 2023. All matches will be played at the St. Peter's College grounds. The final of the tournament will take place at 5 p.m. on the 15th of October.
Well, that's it from the newsroom for tonight. I'm Ravi Gamage.
And I'm Peruni Karnaratna. Take care and good night.